Say, here we go again, right? Year 11. First thing I can say about our team is they have responded really, really well. I mean, really well. I don't think I've seen a team that they hang on your words. We have no excuses as coaches because they have really done everything we've asked them to do. We have some ability, but I don't know many teams around the country that have an ability alone wins football games. So we've got to continue to work on being consistent, efficient. The opening opponent requires that you be efficient, both sides of the ball and the kicking game. They're an extremely well-coached team at Army, and they execute extremely well. So big challenge to stop a four-down attack, and that's what they do. They've led the country in fourth down conversions a year ago, and they got a defense that thrives on putting you in bad down and distance and do a great job of pressuring quarterbacks. So again, I think for us, we've just got to be a very consistent team. We've practiced well. Most of the hard practice, as you might imagine, is done by now. We had good hot work this morning, and I know they're ready to play football, and they're ready to do something besides practice football, and I don't blame them. They've done well in that regard. So take any questions you might have.
Did you guys do a tough Tuesday practice today, or was it more like a Wednesday because it's the Friday?
Well, we had our Tuesday practice Sunday morning. We got them up at 5:30. We did a pre-church practice Sunday morning. We asked for forgiveness, and we were given that. And then we turned around and had, the first day of school was yesterday. We never practice on a Monday to start an academic week. So we actually gave them the complete day off yesterday. So we were able to turn our Tuesday today into our Wednesday practice. That's a long answer, but it's, you know how I get with these short weeks. I'm not really sure or sold that it is Tuesday, but it was our Wednesday practice.
Playing this game on Friday when there's a lot less TV competition that opposed to Saturday, does that give you a chance to show your program on a national level? Is that something you talk about with your players?
I haven't talked with them about it. We're all very aware of it. When ESPN asks you to play these games, you're going to get good exposure. I don't love playing Friday nights when high school football teams are playing, but we have television contracts, and we're going to certainly, when we're asked to do something, we're going to follow suit. But I'm excited because I think this one being Labor Day weekend gives people a great opportunity to come to a football game Friday night, and if they want to have Labor Day weekend off to go do something, they can. Maybe as much as the national scene, I'm hoping Durham comes out. I mean, what a great opportunity to start a holiday weekend. This is Durham night, and to be honest with you, this is year 11, and I know one thing our football program's done. We've been very appreciative of how Durham has embraced us. We got a lot of friends in this community, and I'm counting on a home field advantage. I really am. What we do from a television standpoint, I expect us to play well, and every time we do that on a national spotlight, it helps our program because, as you know, we go recruit everywhere. But this one is going to be focused on Durham and what we've got to do to embrace our community and represent our community well.
You mentioned two concerns in your opening statement. One was the kicking game. Last year, of course, you know what happened in that game. And the other was protecting the quarterback. I think they had 3 sacks last year, pretty much had their defense back. Do you feel like you're better prepared for that kind of thing this year?
Yeah, we were really disappointed in both of those aspects. A little bit sloppy in getting the punt blocked, and it's hard to explain. I mean, that's a combination of protection, a combination of Daniel's awareness, schematically them doing a good job. But you got to do them better. They require that you do them better. We we had 8 possessions last year. If you give up 3 sacks and 8 possessions, that's an extremely high number. There were other quarterback pressures and hurries. So kicking game, protecting our quarterback, and, the challenge of them running the ball and us running the ball. We got to match up there to some degree. And every time you play Army or Navy or Georgia Tech or Air Force, you better try to match up physically, and hopefully we can do that better than we've done it.
Coach, should they put together a long 6 to 8 minute drive, whatever it would be, is there a concern for you offensively about guys staying mentally sharp during that long stretch there on the sidelines?
Yeah, I think the thing that pops in everybody's mind is you're concerned about your defense. If you go out there and go 3 and out, that's playing right into their hands. We stayed on the field a year ago offensively, which was good to see. We just didn't produce as many points as we would like. The entire time, and you guys don't see it, but I mean literally the entire time the other side of the ball is on the field, coaches are working with offensive players. It's rare that much of a possession they get up and just watch. So that is kind of a constant teaching, adjusting. So you're doing your best to keep their head in the ball game the entire time. But it can always be problematic. We had a 17-play drive ourselves last year that resulted in a touchdown, but it wasn't good enough to win the game. That's the problem.
At times against options teams, you switch from 4-2-5 to a 4-3. Or is that on the table for Friday?
We've got a lot of different combinations that we're using with Coach Albert and Coach Guerreri. We've made some configuration adjustments. I know we're anxious to see how well we respond, how well we play it. There's a lot of different ways people try to play a triple option offense. But I'm anxious to see, but we're going to be very multiple in that regard.
How's Jeremy McDuffie's health, and how are Patrick Lighton and Will Taylor? And
Patrick Lighton is not back by any means full speed, but he's getting some work. Will Taylor has done more than we thought he would have done. At this time, I would say the same as about Jeremy. To say they're back and 100%, either one of them, I wouldn't say yet. I think there are some things Jeremy can do and hopefully can play in this game. There's some things that, we just can't count on him being 100% just yet. He will be soon.
Joe and Jonathan both told me they heard from the academies. Daniel said he didn't. As long as you've been around recruiting and you've seen the academies that went downhill from the Vietnam quagmire as far as appealing to kids, and then there's been an uptick since 9/11. I just wonder, on the recruiting trail, what kind of kids, if you come across more kids interested in a place like Duke or the Ivy Leagues or the academies than maybe in the past?
We don't run into them a lot directly in our recruiting. Navy, Army, or particularly Air Force, maybe because they're so far out west. Occasionally we do. It's always a decision that not only a young man, but the family makes. We're very, very supportive of what the academies mean and what they do. And my brother in the 60s, he turned down a lot of scholarships, but he did go to Florida, and then every SEC school recruited him, but it came down to Florida or West Point. And it was just his mentality. And this was in the 60s. This is in the Vietnam War era, a little preceding it. But I think they're always going to be there with the kind of young men that most of us hope we can sign. That's that great student, great character, and also can play the game.
And then I was wondering, John McCain was such a big sports fan, if you ever came across him anywhere, if you had any thoughts?
No, unfortunately, I did not come across John McCain. I've watched him very closely. His bravery and his courage through this illness. And when that man walked in the Senate, fresh out of surgery, and tried to appeal to everybody's better parts about working together, and that doesn't surprise me. He's a statesman, and that's what statesmen do. You know, it's the good of all, ultimately, and I think he lived that well.
Where's Daniel's mentality coming into this third year as a starter?
I think Daniel's really hungry. He's really challenging himself. Every aspect of his game more than maybe in the past. When you're a younger quarterback, you're trying to complete passes. You're trying to make one play at a time. I think Daniel sees himself as a guy that should be a complete player. He's got to manage a game. He's got to manage a game at the line of scrimmage. We're giving him more ability to do that. He's got to make great decisions in the passing game. He's got to put 10 other people in the best positions to be successful. And then one of the things that I really want him to grow is just in purely the consistency of fundamentals. That's what a great man ultimately does. That's what they ultimately, regardless of circumstance, their fundamentals are so good, both mentally and physically, that they rarely make bad plays. You know, so I think he's probably looking forward to being a more consistent quarterback and helping his team win.
David, earlier we were talking about the wide receiver corps. You said there've been a lot of injuries and illnesses. It's hard to get some clarity. Has that picture come together?
Yeah, I think we're going to start. We're going to play a number of people, but we're going to start 3 seniors with Chris Taylor. Excuse me, Aaron's not a senior. Aaron's a junior. Aaron Young is back, and he's had a great camp. And then TJ can play all over the place, which we're going to do. We've got to get TJ the ball, but we're going to see a number of guys that will play and play effectively. John Lloyd will also start. So different configurations. We kind of or Chris Taylor or John Lloyd. I think Jonathan Lloyd's probably had the best camp of everybody. And then you've got all those backups behind them, and I think you're going to see them all. We may see one of the true freshmen, Jake Bobo, got a little injured Sunday morning, but you may well see him in this game too.
You mentioned a few weeks ago after that Saturday scrimmage that you were officially turning your attention to Army. Given that that's about 18 days of preparation on one opponent, does it feel maybe more like preparation for a bowl game opponent as opposed to an opening day?
We really spent 17 days of camp, 8 days on Army is how the math ended up falling. That was the second scrimmage. And Army is so different on offense and defense too, that it took some extra time, which takes a little away from camp. Yes, it's somewhat like a bowl game, except we got 11 games guaranteed right behind it that we have to keep in mind. As you prepare, we're still, like even today, we did some Duke versus Duke, which was standard offense and kind of standard defense, just to keep those skills ready. We're getting ready to play Northwestern, Baylor, et cetera, et cetera.
Daniel mentioned the number of different things that their defensive front will do. Does he have a much better comprehension of what that's gonna look like, and how much, I mean, he took ownership of it, some of the sacks and poor protection last season. How much of that did you think was him just being a little overwhelmed by the numerous things that they do?
I think you always try to have your players prepared. I think when you become the quarterback and you're on the field, the width that they come at you from, the enormity of people in and out, up front, it changes constantly. Then the next thing you know, you got a problem on the edge. I think it is overwhelming. We have to help him from a protection scheme standpoint, and I think Daniel will know when to, you got to change some protections, and he's going to be able to do that better to answer the question. And he knows he's got to do that. But once you do it, once he does it, now players have to execute it. And everything we need to do needs to be done on time. You know, you got to play the game like that.
You've got some young defensive backs. Josh Blackwell, Leonard Johnson haven't played a college game. They're going to get a lot of playing time this week. And Marquise Waters had an increased role. What sense do you get them about their preparedness and what they're feeling about this?
You know, they've been here, both of them, a couple of years. I really feel like they're extremely well prepared. Michael Carter those second-year guys. Leonard Johnson's gonna play a role in this game. Man, he's big and he can run. Marquise is a much better product physically than he was. We're gonna play a lot of people there. And Matt Guerreri's not done a good job, but a great job of getting those guys ready. DJ out on the corner done a great job. We got a lot of combinations we can play. We're trying to work more than just a few people at corner as well. So I'm excited. This is, I know there's a couple of new faces, but it's the most athletic secondary that we've had.
That said, I think Ross Cochran and Mark Gilbert are probably the two best corners you've had at Duke. When they were, in Mark's case, a true freshman, Ross, redshirt freshman, they were tested as freshmen and they struggled. Do you have any concern? If I'm a coordinator and I see Mark Gilbert on one side and Josh Black, I know where I'm going.
Sure, I mean, you're always gonna be attacked. Those guys were attacked by some pretty good beasts.
Yeah.
You know, Ross Cockrell will forever remember the name Julio Jones.
Yeah.
No question. But, you know, Michael Carter, Josh, certainly Mark, McDuffie can play outside. We got a lot of combinations of people, Miles Hudzik. So I feel good about, you know, where we are right now. They just gotta play. And you can't, you know, you play corner living in your hopes, not your fears. As soon as you start playing corner living in your fears, you're gonna realize them. So what I've liked about all of those guys, and they're playing against a really good receiving corps every day in practice. We go one-on-one every single day for great lengths of time. So they're as ready as they can be. So let's just go jump in and see what happens.
Army doesn't throw the ball a lot, but they have a knack for catching people unawares and hitting that 40, 50-yard pass. You think your team is better prepared for that eventuality?
Well, I hope so. They averaged 2 passes a game
Yeah.
a year ago.
Yeah.
You don't know when they're gonna happen. They hit us with one a year ago.
Yeah.
You just play your responsibility. We're gonna match up. We got really good athletes, but you can't lose your eyes. You can't have an eye violation. You gotta play in the secondary and remember it's pass first, run second. Our folks up front gotta do a better job stopping the run. When they do that, you got people in the back end that can play pass first, run second. So Dylan Singleton's another one that's, you know, a veteran player. We've tested them a lot in practice, just out of nowhere constantly. We're coming up with different types of play action passes that you anticipate they might do, but we're doing some that we have seen other option teams do. Just trying to test our discipline in that regard.
Looking at your depth chart, it's obvious that you got a lot of competition on defense. You said earlier that the team responded well. Have these guys responded well to that competition? And
Yeah, I think, I don't think there's any question that nobody feels comfortable just saying, you know, I can go through the motions and be a starter.
right.
There's a lot of competition, probably more at the skill positions on offense than we've had, but defensively it's across the board. And so we've got good young linebackers playing well. You know, if you're Joe Giles Harris and Ben Humphreys, who you might would think would be the most comfortable people on the field, well, they better perform, because there's young people working hard to perform as well or better than them, and that's how your team becomes.